Chris community, welcome back to another video here with Kyle Chris, and today we're going to be going over another Dash Pack deck profile, and today we are going to be going over the AOD deck, and this deck did get some significant buffs to it, so much so that this deck is now going to be considered meta relevant again, I fear, and I have a very love-hate relationship with this deck. I have been clapped up by this deck more times than I would like to admit, and I've also handed out some whoopings with this deck. This deck is really fun. It's weird that this deck has lasted so long through this deck came out almost 2 years ago, and it's had, outside of the support today, you've had a few other forms of support for the deck that have come out, whether they've been in tournament promo form or just cards in general that have just supported this deck, whether or not it's an AOD or not. This deck has just continued to just gain power, and I don't know what actually would make this deck come back into the meta. I know obviously it's getting support, but the God Sealing changes doesn't really do much to this deck. God Sealing really didn't do much at all, but the fact that we now have another aggro deck that can play this very interesting mid-range form is very scary, and God, I'm very excited. I'm very excited to pick up my my Dash Pack cards. I'm going to be playing this deck, I think, at some point. So we'll go over what the cards do. I'm not going to go over the leader too much, just because we should be able to know what it does, and if not, you can read the screen obviously there. But the first two cards are very impactful, which is the Omega Shenron and the Janemba Agents of Destruction. So Janemba is a 15k. You can play off of your leader effect for free. When it's played, you burst one and draw a card, so that's really good. It replaces itself. And then if you have 3 or more energy, you can add an Agent of Destruction card other than this card back to your hand. And then at the end of the turn, you switch the card to active mode. Now, again, this card it's been, unfortunately, what happens with any card game, I feel like, when we have the reveals, these cards obviously are heavily scrutinized, especially like these like tournament cards, and everyone said that this card was absolutely god awful. And the way that I look at it is this: is that you can use this card to it's essentially going to replace itself, draw you a card, which is nice. You have a 15k body swing, and then you could restand it and also add a card back to your hand, which we'll go over a little bit more once we actually get into the deck itself, because there are some very interesting cards you can add back to your hand. One of those cards actually could be this Omega Shenron card here, the strongest Agents of Destruction. So this is an 8-drop, 30k deflect. Permanent, if your opponent has 3 more energy, this card gains triple strike. So that's also very powerful. So you have a 1-drop, you can play for 1. If your leader has an Agent of Destruction in its card name, and the total number of cards with Agent of Destruction in their names, in your leader, energy, Z energy, battle area, and drop is 7 or more, you can play this card for 1. Not a big commitment at all. You can probably have that down by turn 3, turn 4. So it's a 1-drop, and it's going to either draw you a card, or it's going to KO something ignoring barrier. And that's just incredibly powerful. And also doesn't have an energy requirement on it, so you can kill tokens if they decide to token negate. And then you're swinging 30k triple strike at their dome. And that's very powerful. It's a very, very powerful effect. So both of these cards definitely going to be heavily involved in any AOD list going forward. But there's one more card we're going to go over real quick before we go over the deck list, and it's going to be Majin Buu, Pure Destroyer. Now, this card is a must-add in any, I would say, any black deck for its Z deck, because this card itself is just very powerful. However, this card does have a top effect that only works with this particular Majin Buu AOD leader. If your leader's on the front side, you have 6 or less life and 2 or more energy. You get to flip one of your leaders to its backside, draw 2, and you remove this card from the game. Now, why this is good is that this allows you to awaken early. Essentially, you probably want to awaken at maybe 5 life, maybe 6 life. It just depends on the deck. But I don't really understand why you would want to awaken that early. I guess it just depends again on the matchup. But being able to just awaken yourself early is really good. Right, you can do your leader effect, you can take a life, draw a card, do all that stuff, and then you can play this, and then draw 2 more cards, awaken, and then free play something. The amount of value you get off of this is just incredible. The other activate main, if your leader's black, you have 3 more energy. You place 1 of your Z energy in the drop. You choose 1 of your opponent's battle cards and place it under this card. This card gets 20k power to the end of your opponent's next turn. So this is a 25k blocker, essentially. Or you can just use it to remove 1 of your opponent's cards, which is great. Any card, as long as it doesn't have barrier and indestructible, you can take it. And that's really good. That's a really, really good effect. This card's going to be kind of like how Surmounting was right when we started with the Z energy stuff. How Surmounting it's kind of faded out of a lot of Z decks. It's maybe a one of in most. But now being able to have this at your disposal for black decks, you can now kind of have both of these in there. And black, honestly, unless we get something incredibly powerful for black, the Z deck right now is just not very good for black. But this and Surmounting being 1-drop effects that you can just use to either draw cards or board removal, it's very powerful and definitely something to look out for black decks. So now we're going to go over the deck list that I have for you guys, and we can check out and see what an updated list would look like. All right, guys. So we have a list here. I believe it's 52 or 53 cards, I believe. So we have kind of the engine of this decks, if you will, which is going to be this Bobbity card. So Bobbity reduces the cost of all your Angel's Instructions in your hand by 1. The barrier guy, and then it treats all of your AODs as if they have no energy specific cost, which your leader does as well. So that's not that big of an importance. But the reducing the energy cost by 1 is very good because now you can keep this guy on board, and it's quite difficult to remove. There's not a lot of decks that have good barrier removal. Strikes Back, I think you still play it. So with Bobbity, Agents of Destruction Strikes Back becomes a free extra card, and you can use it to grab 2 AODs from your, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck. If they're both AOD in their name, you can add them to your hand. If you added more than 1, you get to take up to 1 life. So it allows you to self-awaken, but also just allows you to cycle cards, which is very good, obviously. We have Hatch. Hatch you can use to tap 1. You can use it to play Bobbity from your deck or your drop. This is just in case you don't hit the Bobbity, but more than likely you're going to. And you also can play it to warp something, and then you can shuffle cards from your opponent's drop area back into their deck. That's cool for particular reasons, maybe like Crimson. You can use it against Crimson. Just shuffle stuff back in. That way they don't have access to their waking condition. There's a few different things that you can do. We have Turles, probably the best card to play for 1. So you play this guy. He searches top 5 for an AOD when he swings. He's unique barrier. This is kind of your draw engine for the deck. You're going to keep him on board for realistically the whole game, or try to. Broly kills something when it comes in, and then searches top 2 cards, I believe. I think it's top 2. No, top 3. It should be top 3. Yeah. So, and you search top 3. You grab a card. You drop the other 2 in the drop area, or you can add an AOD back by pitching this card from your hand and paying 1 energy. So it's any AOD card. We have 4 of the Android 13 counterplay. This is an amazing card. So hit something coming in 3 or less. If it does, your opponent pitches a card. When this card's played, you get to shuffle back in 2 Agent of Destruction cards from your drop, or an Evil Wizard card, meaning you can shuffle back in your Evil Wizard Bobbities. This card is probably one of the reasons why this deck has been so relevant for so long, is just being able to hit every floodgate, almost. Any beginning of an engine, right? It hits a lot of the Z battle cards, and especially now it hits Beerus. This card is fantastic. It's very terrifying to play against in certain matchups, because there are certain matchups where you have to get stuff on board, and a 1-drop 15k that pops a card that's coming in and makes you pitch a card is just very devastating to deal with. We have 4 of the Lord Slug super combos, so you can play it. It has unique, but if your opponent actually has to counterplay, they pitch 2 cards from their hand. Very good card. You can play this guy on the field and then kind of force your opponent to play around your Lord Slug if they can't remove it, and that can become a problem. For the Garlics, so Garlic here is a 1-drop negates. You play it and you search through your deck for a 2-drop, and you get to play it other than copies of Garlic, and then you play with their skills negated for the turn, which is cool. So you can actually play out Turles, Android 13, Lord Slug off the Garlic already. With a few more cards, probably we can go over once we get to those. This card is also very good. As you see, we're just running 4 ofs. honestly. And this AOD it's one of the most simple decks in the game to build. There's not a ton of deck building technique that you need to just build out the deck. It's literally most 3-ofs and 4-ofs of everything. Then you can throw in some small spice in there, which we don't really have too much in this particular build, just because I don't want to go over, because all that stuff's just really based on the format, and that's going to change depending on what stuff comes out. There's already been cards that have come out for this for set 20 that would actually fit very, very well in this deck. So, nope, that's Lord Slug. So we're gonna have the Baby Janempa. This is one of the TPs that came out. So it can be used as energy exhaust. If your opponent has more than 5 cards in rest mode, you're more than likely not going to do that. But you can play this card off of your leader for free. When you play it, it's a blocker with offering, and your opponent has to then either crit a life or you get to draw 2 cards. And then you get to play a 20k battle card for free. So it's pretty good. Now we have the Lord Slug package. So we have Super Namekian and Agent of Destruction. So this, I guess you can consider spice, quote unquote. A lot of decks have done this. So Lord Slug here can become a 2-drop off the Bobby. You play it off your leader. When you play this, your opponent pitches a card from their hand. Then, with this effect, the bottom effect here, it's a 1 green. You get to play 3-drop Lord Slug from your hand. Bam! Then we play Super Namekian. We swing with Super Namekian, and we have tons of battle cards on board. We have Turles and Bobbity, with both of them having barrier. This card's in rest mode. Your opponent cannot draw off of skills other than their leader. Essentially just shutting down any draw engine that they could have. It's an incredibly difficult deck to deal with. Very, very annoying. Would definitely utilize this in any Lord Slug deck if you're going to be playing Lord Slug. I think this is, it's not necessarily the most aggro version of the deck, but just being able to just put your opponent in kind of a lock, it's very difficult to deal with, right? For 1 energy, you get 2 20k bodies on board, 1 stop your opponent from drawing, 1 pitches the card from your opponent's hand. And now you have an energy up on the next turn for Android 13 or Garlic or whatever it is. That's very difficult to deal with. So, yeah, I definitely think this is the way to go. But there's people who run other stuff. There's a Super Baby combo they can use where you can evolve it off top of the Baby Janempa. There's different things you can do. This is probably my favorite one. Now we get to the new cards. We have 3 of each of the new cards. As I said before, with the Janempa, you can add any AOD card back to your hand off the activate main. So you can use it to grab back a Baby Janempa. You can use it to grab back Lord Slug, Broly, Android 13, Garlic. So you can kind of see where you can just reoccur value in your hand. Like if you have an Android 13 on board, you swung with it already. You can play Janempa, draw a card, activate main, bounces back to your hand, and now you have a counterplay for the next turn. You can do it with Garlic, Lord Slug, Baby Janempa, whatever it is that you want to do. And it just allows you to just reoccur cards back to your hand, but also it does restand itself, so it can work as a 5k combo as well. And then we have 3 of the Omegas. 3 or 4 is probably where you want to play it at, because you can't play it till past turn 3 anyways, and your opponent has to have 3 energy, so you can't play it on. If you go first, you cannot play it on your turn 3. It has to be your turn 4. But it is 1 energy. So, I mean, it's still pretty good. So 3 is probably the least you'd want to run, because I think this is going to be one of the most crucial cards to the deck, at least being able to push through a lot of damage. We have 3 Majin Buu Unisons. You can play it off with the leader effect for 3 energy. And it's probably the best one. You can play the Majin Vegeta as well, but I do like the draw effect and just being able to have a 20k blocker that you can also restand and then use it to bottom deck something. So it just gives you a little bit of defense there. We have 1 Dark Broly Heartless Berserker. This is our overwhelm of choice. Warp something on board, and then it's a 30k body. Now, there's the Goku that's coming out in set 20. That's very good. It's a 5 overwhelm. Draws you a card. It's got crit. That card's very good. However, with Dark Broly, what's cool about Dark Broly is that once this card goes away, later on in the game, you can play this from your drop for 2 energy. It says if your leader is black, play this card from your warp. I'm sorry, not from the drop, but from the warp. So you actually can play this guy from the warp for 2 energy. Now, 2 energy is a lot in this deck. However, a lot of our stuff is free, so, you know, it's not too bad. But yeah, being able to just play this guy from your warp, I think also gives it reoccurring value, because now you can play a 30k and this guy on the same turn for 3 energy. You have 2 30k bodies. You know, just a little extra value there, I feel like. 1 further destruction Joppa, because we are, you know, going to try to hand dump on something at some point. And the secret rare is Pan, just because it's free. People have forgot about Pan. Pan has not been utilized for a very long time. But Pan's very good. Pan's still very good. I think Pan is still something that people should be looking into playing, especially since we're going towards a more battle card centric game, or we have been for a while. But this is a very good card. It's a very, very good card. Other options might be Kai, Heroine's Lineage. Like, this deck doesn't really need a secret rare. The Pan is just probably the best black one you can run for this. I would say Evil Saiyan, but I believe Evil Saiyan needs 2 black energy, and you don't have any black cards in the deck other than Dark Broly, but you're not going to charge that, so that card wouldn't really work in this deck. I'm pretty sure Evil Wizard, Evil Saiyan's 2 black energy. Now, I do have a side deck, or a Z deck for it. We have one of the surmountings to help us just get a little extra card draw, and just a little bit more cycling. 3 of the Majin Boos, we can use it to self-awaken early, or again, just use it for the bottom effect to suck up cards. 1 Oolong, because we do charge yellow, and Oolong does not need a yellow specific. So we can use like Pan or Omega or whatever, or Dark Broly, swing with that stuff, and then we can play Oolong, copy it to go to 30 or 40, swing, and then put a Champa on top of it. It's still a very good effect where you don't even need the Mira. And then we have 2 Jiren the Immovable. So again, this is a card where you do not need a green specific leader. It's 2 green, which we actually do have quite a bit of green in the deck. You have Lord Slug, Broly, Android 13, Lord Slug. So you have quite a bit, and potentially more green if depending on how much you want to add. So the 2 green shouldn't be that difficult. You play it, you pop something, and then you can give this card the ability to not be able to be removed from skills. Then this card can also help you remove unisons and then also swing for double strike. So it's very, very good. I would say if there was a way of playing the red Vegeta, AOD in here, you also can charge that, and then you can use it to play Defender of Life, which is also an option. But right now there's not a lot of red options, and we don't really want to charge the Baby Janempa. We like having that card on board. So, but this is just kind of a very easy version of what the AOD potentially could look like. Obviously, once we start getting into tournament format, in the next few months, this list might look a little bit different. There might be more cards, less cards, different ones. But this is just a good template to go off of for anyone who wants to play the AOD deck with the new dash pack cards. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, please hit the like button, give me a thumbs up. Let me know how you guys think of the list. I have started doing Patreon content again. We started off doing a discussion on one of the competitive decks that I think is good for 2023, and I'll consistently be adding more content hopefully every week. If you guys want to see certain content on the Patreon and you guys are subscribed, obviously, let me know what you guys think, and I can see what we can put on there. So thank you guys again for the support as always, and I will see you guys in the next video.